Hello and welcome to Tell Me Panda YouTube channel about studies and career abroad. In today Tell Me Panda Talk, we welcome Abigail, who is from America, and she's doing her internship in Paris.
I am.
Hello, Abigail.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy because we can exchange our experience living in Paris. Both of us, we are foreigners here.
Yeah.
And today we're gonna talk about her experience of internship. How did she find it? How does she feel about it? And of course about cultural differences, American and Russian Paris. And if you would like to know more about French entrepreneurship, about studies and career in France, watch this video till the end. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your journey. How did it come that you choose France? What are you doing exactly here?
Yeah, so, I'm from the US, and it's not super common to learn a second language, but in my high school, we were always required to take a couple years, and then you can end up taking it through middle school too if you want. And French always interested me, and so I started taking French. And my professors and my teachers were just, honestly, I was very lucky to have very good ones. And they're all very passionate about French. So it made me always want to come, and work really hard in learning French and stuff. So when I got to the university level with French, I decided after I finished some of my studies that I maybe wanted to do an internship or see how French would work in a workplace, and have an immersion experience. So I spoke with the French department at my university, and they helped coordinate with a professor they know here, who used to work at ESCP. And she also, I think she coordinates for other people too, but she helped to get me placed here. So I was very lucky because it was kind of easy for me through my university to do that. I was able to do that through my university.
So right now you're doing your bachelor studies in the USA. In which university?
So I go to Brigham Young University, and I'm doing a bachelor's in economics, and then French and is a minor, and then international business is my other minor. So I, kind of combine all those and come to France and work in that kind of area. So this internship is a part of your bachelor program, right? So is it obligatory or it was your own choice? Yeah, so it's not obligatory. I think they encourage most people who study a foreign language to do an immersion experience because they have a lot of study abroad programs where you can come over with a professor and other students, and you spend like 6 weeks in the summer, kind of taking classes in Paris or in around France. And I think they really recommend that, but it was not obligatory for me to do it. My long-term goal was always to work in an international setting and to work in France. And so I thought this is a good time. And after COVID too, I was so tired of being at home and stuff like that. So I decided to come over.
Sure. So the interesting thing that how we got acquainted with my project right now, I'm following the program in Incubator, Blue Factory. It's an incubator of the school I have graduated like several years ago, ECP Europe. Yeah. So it's in top 3 business schools of France. And so Abigail, she's doing her internship in this incubator. So tell me more about this, because on your every day you talk to different entrepreneurs, more experienced, those who just started. So how do you feel about it? What do you do exactly, and what did you learn?
Honestly, the whole experience has been just very eye-opening and amazing, and I don't know if I could have asked for a better experience to walk into as someone who studies what I study, because ESTP is technically, it's an English campus, but the Blue Factory is all in French. So it was great because I could still, if I really needed something, most people speak English, but we could work in French. And all of the entrepreneurs, it blows my mind, honestly. All of you guys are so cool. And I never really realized as much how France is a startup nation, really, and how that's kind of a thing for France to have incubators and things like that. I had personally never heard of them when I was in the US. besides maybe big ones from like Google or something. But all of the projects and stuff is so interesting here. And it's been very interesting to see the mix of, you know, people and cultures and how it's, you know, there's this drive here to take an idea or a passion and turn it into something, you know, like a business or a service that, you know, where you can follow that. And so it's been very cool. And it has been nice to work and see how that kind of works with an international campus too, because we have the Berlin team too. So there's the Blue Factory at ESCP in Paris. And that's where I work with Maeva, who's the director, and Manuela. And then in Berlin, there's also the smaller office, but we have meetings with them all the time. And it's just amazing because it's this mix of cultures. I mean, I figured everyone here speaks French, but also, I mean, you know, you're from Russia, and Manuela, she's from Cameroon, and the Berlin team, one of them is from Poland, and then one of them is, you know, from like India, and, you know, I mean, you have Italians and Japanese people and everyone coming to this campus, and it's been amazing because I've had a France experience, but also a very international experience too, and seeing how that all comes together has been just...
No, I completely understand it, because one of the reasons I choose my studies at UCP towards like international dimension. And so UCP has 6 campuses in Europe. I was doing my double degree program. So I'm from Moscow, and I spent 1 year in Paris. But I know those who are doing full-time program in bachelor or master, they're obliged to change the campus. So the school pushes students to not to only travel, just to move to another country, to learn another language, to experience another culture. And that's amazing. I remember like when we were working on projects and you have all these nationalities in the same room, that was the most important value of this program for me. And I'm super happy that it's the same atmosphere and the same at Blue Factory. Yeah,
I mean, because I came over here with the mindset. I mean, I traveled some before, and I've always loved it because you always have an idea of what a place is going to be like in your head, right? And until you get there and you see it, it's just like, you know, amazing, right? And it can totally change your perspective and makes you think about things more concretely and how it affects other places of the world. And, you know, I was expecting to come to France and have that experience here, but then I also found myself, you know, feeling all these connections to, you know, parts of Africa where, you know, some of these entrepreneurs live right now, and other parts of Europe, and all of the concerns and, you know, things that, you know, that go into making a business, you know, all over the place. It's just,
That's great.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about France when you just arrived? So expectation versus reality. Was it like worse, better?
You know, my expectation when I came here, I had visited Paris once before, but just for a couple days. And it was cool, but it was so fast. And all I saw really were the museums, and like it was summertime, so there was people everywhere, and coming and realizing that Paris is a city where people live, you know, versus just this kind of fantasy idea of where movies are filmed and things like that. Coming and realizing and getting into a swing, it was easier than I thought it would be to kind of get into everyday life. Like I go to work, I go get groceries, but I would just stop on the street sometimes and go, I'm in Paris. Like I'm grabbing groceries in Paris. Like this is crazy, you know? Because the opportunities and the things you see are amazing. I know a lot of people, one of the things that surprised me, and I was pleasantly surprised, was, you know, people in the US, I think, kind of have this idea in their head that French people can be kind of mean or snobby, and if you don't like speak French, or if you don't whatever. And in some ways it is good to know some French when you come here, but I found that people honestly were very nice, and even my French is not perfect, you know, and I've been studying it for a long time. People were very nice about it, and honestly there's a lot of people, I mean, like you and me, who are learning French still, and it's kind of something I think everyone has had to maybe adapt to more or less in a city like Paris. I'm not sure about other parts of France, but in Paris at least, it's very easy to find someone, you know, and some common ground on, yes, we're struggling with the language, and, you know, I need help with something.
Do you feel that you are still struggling with French because you are speaking fluently?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got here, because now it's amazing. I mean, if you've had an immersion experience with a language, it's crazy because I feel like after you have a couple conversations with people, when you feel like you've warmed up to them and things like that, like we went and got some aperos after like one of the workshops with one of the Blue Factory teams. And it was crazy because I was sitting there and I was listening and I was like, okay, direct translate word. Okay, they're saying this. And my brain was working so hard. And then after a while, people started asking me questions and I started speaking in French. And, you know, after probably an hour, because, you know, people in France will go and just sit at a bar for hours.
Yeah, that's true.
It was so comfortable and it was amazing because, you know, there you have experiences like that and some days are harder than others. But I think there's always moments where you kind of struggle with a second language. But at the beginning, when I first got here and was like, man, I really don't know how to say that, or how people really say it, because you might learn a technical way to say it.
Yeah, that's true. And in real life,
don't know what you're saying.
For me, it was one of not cultural shock, like language shock, that French, they cut the words. They don't pronounce the words till the end. Yeah. And, you know, the famous phrase I still remember, I was doing my internship at Amazon, and one of my colleagues, he wrote me, Elena, t'es dispo pour un déj cet après-midi? Et là, je dis, I didn't get it. Because, like, they really, they are so in hurry that they don't have time to pronounce the words till then. Well, and it's very different from what we learn at school. And that's why even when you understand the word, actually, really spoken French is very different, and they speak so fast that there's liaison. Yeah. So you think that it was one word, but actually it was four. So they're just, and it's difficult at the beginning.
Yeah, getting used to that though, once you hear that and you get used to it, it's amazing because you find yourself like using it. And I know a lot of people like it. You always say like qu'est-ce que, you know, and like qu'est-ce que say like what is it, stuff like that. And that looks so complicated. Yeah. But it's like, you know, what is in English? You know, it's like not crazy at all. And making those kinds of connections so that they're kind of automatic instead of having to think about every moment of it has been, that's been amazing in, you know, language learning. And it's very fulfilling too, because I know a lot of people, I mean, French is hard, a lot of languages are hard, and learning a second language can be very, you know, I don't know, not like it can make like degrading, I don't know how to say that, but it can make you feel like you're not very smart sometimes. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I know, because for several months, I think I felt so stupid. And, you know, I met one of, not really close friend, but someone, he's English, and he was living in different countries, and we had this conversation about like how do you feel when you speak another language. And I just loved the phrase he pronounced, do you know how intelligent I am when I speak my native language?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, really? Like when you feel so stupid, you want to say to people, I'm sorry, I'm not stupid. I'm just don't really speak your language correctly, because it impacts the impression, really.
Oh, it does.
Even when people, they understand that, okay, you're learning still, sometimes they have impression like you're a baby. Oh, it's so cute that you say something. And when you work, actually, you don't want, like, people perceive you as a baby. It's like, actually, I'm normal. I'm okay. So,
well, that is also, I mean, I love that, because I feel like people who are also here and learning another language, there's like sympathy around that. And, you know, I was very lucky that, I don't know, I felt like people still knew that I had thoughts in my head, even if I couldn't say it out loud. But honestly, it makes me have more sympathy too for people when they're struggling. And I think that just kind of cultivates some kindness about language learning. And, you know, it's hard. And you can sit there and think so hard about how to say something, but your brain is just like tired or something. And you can't think of the exact word and it makes you feel silly, but it, you know.
And now I feel very weird about my English, because when I told you, like when I came to France, I felt more comfortable in English than in French, and then I started to learn French and I started working in French, and so now I have very few people to whom I speak English, and I feel like merci la France, because I lost my English, and I feel like you know, it's like a line of words in my head, and so French words, they come in first, and then I have to translate it. It's like, oh my God, it's not normal. And so weird. So weird.
And sometimes I'll forget a word in French, but then I think so hard about what that word is in French that I forget what it was in English. And I'm like, what word was I even looking for? I like some vague word over there, like I can't even remember.
I think all foreigners will go through the same processes, and but at least we feel that our brain really works hard.
Yeah, it does.
And it's great.
Our brains are crazy.
The question I wanted to ask you, last year, lots of people talked about Emily in Paris.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And lots of people, they were not very happy and not agree with what they showed, how they presented France and French and Paris. Honestly, I liked it. For me, it's like very nice, very romantic. Okay, not always realistic, but it shouldn't be really realistic. So it's a nice thing. So what do you think about it? And like as American coming to France, to Paris right now, do you feel same or completely disagree?
You know,
what do you think?
I mean, it's a fun show because it still has all of those. Yeah, it's kind of an American romance show, and it's like a comedy and stuff like that. And I think some of the smaller moments are, do happen in France sometimes. Like, there's dog poop kind of places. Not as much as I thought from that show. But, I mean, there's always people, and like there's flower shops and boulangeries, and like, it's very Parisian. Yeah. And they captured that, I don't know, they had the montages of Paris. Mm-hmm. I don't think French workplaces are quite that brutal, but I guess I haven't worked in, some marketing agency.
I think it's also about industry, because of course they exaggerate it, but I think like each experience can be very different. It depends on the industry, it depends on where you intern or you're on contract, etc. So of course it's not, unfortunately it's not that hard. And
I think maybe people didn't love the way that like the French language is maybe portrayed as being like so hard, and people being kind of mean about it, and also everyone speaking like amazing English too. I mean, you kind of find a middle ground for sure. But I think the one thing they kind of got right in that I really enjoyed, and after I came to, I just rewatched it because I was like, what is it like now that I've been in Paris for a couple months? Like, I don't know, what does it seem like? And the small moments and stuff where Paris, you could just end up going out like every night. There's always stuff to do. Like, there's always an expo or like a, some sort of festival for something, or museums, and you kind of run into people. I don't know about you, but I've kind of just run into people and met them at sort of random things or from work, and you end up having these really tight relationships because you're both in France for whatever, or things like that. So I don't know, I kind of like that aspect of the show, because you honestly do find that in Paris, where you go to a restaurant and you can start talking to people next to you. Or, I mean, there's, I don't know, that lifestyle of enjoying things, and enjoying small things, and spending time with your friends, and not always being focused on work or school.
Yeah, work and life balance.
That was very true. And the fact that, the office doesn't open till 10. Like, here, I mean, in the US, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people probably sympathize, like, you kind of have, okay, I need to be there by 8. I need to not be late. But here, I don't know. I mean, for me at least.
Well, I think it depends also on the city. So normally in Paris, we start 9:30, 10. So it's not just 10. But I know that in some cities, people start working at 8 and even early. But they also finish early. So it's also like...
It's all kind of the same. But I mean, having more time in the morning, because I don't know, for me that was like new. and having it be a little more fluid of a workplace, you know, and taking lunch breaks too, like going out to lunch, you know, normally in the US, people are like, okay, you have like 30 minutes to eat.
Yeah, no.
I hope you brought food.
Like, food is very important in France.
We are going to go out and sit down and eat food.
Yeah. And it's true that also it depends on your work, because if you're working in a consulting company, so for sure your lunch breaks are very, very fast. Yeah. But it happened to me several times that lunch could last 2 hours. Well, it's very rare. For sure, it's not every day, but 1 hour at least, 1 hour and a half even. So I think the good thing about Emily in Paris that they really managed to show this art de vivre, that people enjoy life. That's really like food is amazing and it's important. Work and life balance is very important. It's not only about working hard, and I think this part is true to life. Then of course, like it sounds like a fairy tale, but you are not expecting to see in real life when you see in the movie. I mean, like you should just perceive it in a critical way a little bit, but the scenes are very beautiful. They showed really, I don't know, like ça donne envie. It just, I think it makes you dream about Paris and to come to discover yourself. And I talked about it with lots of my friends, different nationalities, and I also realized that it depends on your life philosophy. It depends what do you see. Some people come to Paris and they say, oh, it's dirty, it's stressful, people are not nice, and some think, oh, it's beautiful, people are so nice and international. And you know, like they both were in the same city. It depends how you see things. Do you have this habit to see things positively or in a negative way? So really depends. And I liked Emily in Paris. I think it's a nice thing to
and it was cool because the second time I watched it after I'd been here for a while, they have like the clips where they show, you know, parts of Paris, and I can like see the rooftop from over here, but like the pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been there. I was like, I've stood on that little, you know, point on the Notre Dame Island, you know, and there it is in this movie, and you know, it's like,
for me, I still it's been 7 years I'm living in Paris, and for me it's still like I'm living in a movie. You know, sometimes I just go out and say, oh my God, I'm living in Paris, I'm living in a movie. And like I passed through different hardships here and struggling with visa and with work. So I don't see it in 100% romantic way. But still, I think like it's very important, your attitude. So, and
I think, those moments you are living your life, and that can be stressful. And I think that, you know, I mean, in the Emily in Paris, it's not always like roses and stuff, but you do realize you have those moments where, like I said earlier, I mean, where you're like grocery shopping and you're like, but I'm in Paris. And it just kind of makes you a little, like it makes your heart jump a little. Like you're like, oh, I'm in Paris though. Like it's crazy.
But I completely understand. And still, like 7 years later, I feel the same. By the way, let us know in the comments, did you watch Emily in Paris series? And what do you think about it? Probably you already visited Paris or not yet. So it's interesting to discuss. So Abigail, let's talk about study abroad, because I know that you are thinking about master program. So can you tell me what are the normal, well, or most common paths for American bachelors? Do they prefer to work directly or to continue the masters in the US, in Europe, in some other part of the world?
Yeah, you know, that's been interesting to see since I've come here, because the French system, I think, I don't know, I like learned about it in high school, but it still kind of was confusing to me, because I was like, okay, you have high school and then you take, you know, I learned when I got here that there are 3 different types of the baccalaureate, and then you go to préparatoire, like preparatory studies, and then you start like your licence, and then after that you can do like, you know, something.
It depends whether you use universities or grande école.
And so it seemed like so confusing to me. But in the US, I mean, you go from high school and you go to university, and you can go to like a 2-year university, like a 2-year college, or a 4-year college, or a university that's a college that has like higher degree programs also in the same campus. But it's very different because here I've had the impression that you very much go one after another, and you have to know when you start kind of where you want to go. It's a lot harder to backtrack or to start a master's later. Because in the US, you can enter the workforce after you get your bachelor's. It just depends on what you've studied, really. And you can work for a couple years and then get a master's and then get a PhD, or you can go straight from, you know, your undergraduate to a PhD. And it's just, I mean, the length of your studies and stuff is very different. And so coming here and seeing how those programs work, I was like, man, this seems so much more complicated.
Yeah.
But I am very interested in coming here for a master's. But as an international student, figuring out how to do that, it's been very nice to meet Abigail, honestly, and have that kind of explained a little more, because it's possible.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to come in as a foreigner and see the French school system. But there are a lot of international students here.
That's true that there are some
it's very possible
more traditional and academic universities and programs where you will study with mostly French people, and that will allow you to improve your French and to be more integrated. But also there are lots of international programs where you can meet people all over the world. The program can be in English. For me it was, as I told you, like the most valuable experience, like working together with people of different nationalities and to discover these cultures, different mindset, different habits. And yes, it's possible. Well, you should be prepared. You should have your, like, in France, they call it projet professionnel, your like career plan, what you're going to do next, etc. But I think it's so worth it. But the question I have for you, like, why France? And do you think, like, what was your logic behind? You wanted just to study abroad and they say, okay, I speak French, so France, or you were hesitating between staying in the US and thinking about Europe, so probably some other countries? How do you feel about it?
So I think part of it is, of course, because I always studied French and it sounded interesting to me. But also, I mean, France, I remember one of your other videos, which you can go watch if you want, with Ven.
Yes.
She talked about, you know, how she kind of came for school, but also to like travel and things like that. And in Paris, you do have a mix, like it's kind of known for having a mix of an international kind of availability there. And so also, I mean, for access to things, especially studying in Paris, you know, there's an airport, you can take trains places, you're not too far from other countries.
There's so many discounts for students.
Yeah, and yes, the discounts for students, I mean, I don't know if you're under 26 in a lot of European countries, there's a lot of discounts, but if you're a student, I mean, that's train amazing. Discounts, like movies, like theater, basically everything, you can get a discount if you're a student, and museums too. Or you can get in for free, which they're very... they're kind to students in a lot of ways. And so that always kind of fascinated me when I learned about it. And also the idea of studying abroad, a lot of Americans, at least that I know, when they think of going to a foreign university or not doing a master's in the US, that's a little more, you know, okay, that seems challenging. And a lot of times they go to England, you know, or the United Kingdom, because English speaking, and it's cheaper too. In the US, a master's program or a PhD program, I mean, that can be, you know, tens of thousands
abroad
of dollars.
Is cheaper than studying in your home country. Right? It's very interesting because it really depends on your country. For example, for Russian, they say, oh, it's so expensive to do studies abroad. Because, for example, in Russia, when you go through the entry exams, and if you get enrolled into program, it can be free. And for example, I never paid for my studies in Russia, like no bachelor, neither bachelor nor master. And so really, like, comparing, for example, the price of business school here, it seems very expensive. And it's interesting that for American students,
it's so much less expensive. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you can get scholarships and stuff for that in the US. But because, I mean, there's government subsidies and things for university in the US, but a lot of people, that's kind of one of the main reasons why they choose to study abroad is because it's a lot cheaper. And so, but most people, they don't necessarily know a second language or are comfortable learning in a second language beyond that, you know, so they tend to go to the United Kingdom, England, a lot of people think of doing a master's at like Cambridge or Oxford or like, the university in Edinburgh or something like that, So that always appealed to me because I thought, well, that's great. You can live abroad for a few years, but you're kind of in a stable situation, where you have peers and a network around you, which I think, honestly, it's a great way to like experience abroad because you're with people too. But I speak French and I've always been interested in French culture and things. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought, well, why not? I might as well try in France, So that was kind of the reason. It's expensive to do master's programs in the US, and in France, they offer different things too, like international business studies. It's a lot different to study that here, where you can go to a different campus in another country and have that experience, versus if you're in the US and you're just kind of, you have the US for miles every direction around you,
I see.
So that was kind of it for me personally.
Okay. And you're thinking about master management program, right? So
maybe management or marketing or strategy, something like that. But that's the other kind of a difference, because I've had the opportunity to study a little bit, and then now I took a semester to do this internship to help me know what I want to continue studying, what other classes I want to take in the US, which I know is something that is harder to do here, because you kind of start your studies and then you continue on through your studies, and it's harder to take a break. At least I've had that impression.
I think it really depends on program, because for me it was a huge difference between French education system and Russian. Because like in Russia we study bachelor, then masters, and then it's very often non-stop, and then you're just fed up with your studies and say, I want to work and I don't want to study anymore. But here also it depends on the program, but in most programs the internship, they are obligatory, so it's like a part of study process. And for example, in our master management program, you have master 1, master 2, and then you can have 2 gap years. And when you take gap years, actually you can do your internship. And in France, internship is 6 months. So imagine like you can spend 4 years and do like 4 different internships, or just have a semester of break and to go on volunteer projects, to just travel around. But you do a master 1 year, then you do your, for example, 2 internship, you go back to campus, and then you can have another gap year. Like for me in France, it was a good combination of having working experience and studying at the same time. Because it's very important to have this experience to understand what you want to do next. Because when, for example, you're studying for 6 years and then you realize that, okay, you have 2 diplomas, but you hate it, and you have to change
practice.
So you have to start from the beginning. So it's really I think it's really very important to have this experience while you're studying.
The 6 month internships too. When you can have those, it's good to know, like with the gap years. I almost forgot that you do that, and they're obligatory. Because like, I don't know, we said, mine, it's not obligatory for my graduation to do this, but I kind of it was easier for me to choose. I'll just take this semester, which I guess you can do the same. But then I'm going back, and I get to like add more classes on to my program.
And you can choose all these classes?
So I can choose.
It's like electives.
In the US you have your major, and at least at my university, like it tells you have to take these specific classes, but then in your major too you have core classes, which those are the ones that everyone takes, and then you have your elective classes, which are ones that you pick to kind of specialize in things. So in economics I could do educational economics, or like healthcare economics or something like that. And so I kind of wanted to do business international economics, and so I thought I want to take a little internship and then figure out if I want to take some marketing classes or something like that, what interests me. And so I do have that option when I go back And from what I've heard here from students, a lot of times the program is very fixed.
Well, actually, yeah, I think it depends on the program, because me, during my studies at Master 2, we had elective classes. So Master 1, it's core courses. Master 2, it's more elective, but also you have different specializations. For example, you can choose a program for 1 semester, you can choose consulting, you can choose, I choose, for example, innovation, etc. So the different tracks, and for me, it was like more or less legal. And I know that, for example, my university in Moscow, they also, several years ago, they started to propose these options. Before, it was not the case. So I think that things are being changed.
Yeah, things are kind of changing.
Yeah,
I don't know. But just for me, I get to go back and then use this experience to choose kind of, continue what direction I want.
Probably, the difference is that you are talking about bachelor studies. And in bachelor, in most cases, it's really like the program is already done and you don't have really this freedom to choose. So master is more flexible. But again, it depends on university, it depends on your specialization, etc. But it's great that you have this freedom to choose. And I think it's very important, like, to have this already. For you, it's first working experience, or you
no, so I've had jobs before and things like that. This is my first like international internship in an office. I've kind of done things like this before, where I've gone and helped out and kind of gotten to look, or I don't know, in the US you can shadow doctors and things like that to see what a day in the life is like. But this is my first like internship experience in France.
Okay, but great.
Yeah, it definitely has made me kind of tweak what I want to study for my bachelor's, so that, I can work more in the things that I've learned that I'm passionate about and that I find interesting. So
let's talk about soon you'll finish in your internship, right? And soon you'll be back to US.
I'm going back to the US.
What are your 3 takeaways from this experience? What was the most important?
I think number 1 is that I think most people probably experience this when you start to live abroad. I don't know, I felt this kind of self-empowerment. I was like, wow, I can really do this. Like, so many people move to a foreign country and figure out the language and learn how to live there. And it's so much more possible than you might think it is, so study abroad. It's very worth it, the experience. My second takeaway, honestly, I will just treasure all of the small moments that I've had with people where I just know I wouldn't have gotten to do that. And the international experiences too, and the friendships. I mean, it's amazing how you meet people here in Paris. And I think it's different than the US, because here, when you make friends with someone, they invite you to like come over or spend the weekend at their house and do things. And you have a very strong relationship. And I've really enjoyed that. And I have that in the US, but I think a lot of times it takes longer to build. And number 3 probably is that I want to come back. I remember speaking with my French teachers when I was younger, and I was like, how many times have you been to France? And she's like, I don't know, since college, probably a dozen. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But now I understand, because it's like, you want to come back, and you want to, like, a part of your life has been there, and you have experiences and memories there, and you want to come back and visit them, One of my friends, she told that you'll never be a tourist in Paris again, because you lived here. I know.
So Paris for you is your home, and you will never feel like a tourist, because you already have this close experience with the city, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I hope you guys also enjoyed it. If you have some questions about cultural differences, American, Russian, Paris, or about study abroad, don't hesitate to put your comments below. We'll be happy to see what you think and to talk to you. And please subscribe to our channel, not to miss next videos about different study abroad experience and also working international environment. And thanks again, Abigail. It was really a pleasure. And I wish you all the best for your master studies. I hope to see you in France next year.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.